Welcome to WNHHFM 103.5 Just in Time Conversations. I'm your host, Justin Farmer, inviting you to be in community with us about conversations and ideas that matter. Today, our esteemed guest, David Rosen, civil rights attorney and longtime public advocate, is here to join us and talk about his work and just share in what it's been like to be a prominent leader in the community. Thank you, David, for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
I got the pleasure introduction to you and your work first by being one of your clients through the civil rights clinic at Yale at the time with Mike Wishney, the Rule of Law Clinic, when we were suing the state about prison gerrymandering. So I got to find out about you after the fact, where it's just like, oh yeah, like we got some lawyers and we're doing this interesting case. And then I got to learn about you during the Panther trials and all the other work that you've done over the years. So how did you get into law? Like what got you interested in the law? What made you decide this was a, a career to be in?
I really kind of backed into it. After college, I did a year studying political sociology in England, and I thought that coming to law school, especially at Yale, given its reputation at least at that time, would be an interesting field of study that I could take. I don't know where.
You gotta speak louder.
Oh, okay. So when I entered law school, I didn't have a clear sense of what I was going to do after law school. And while I was in law school, one summer I worked at the Southern Teaching Program, teaching high school kids in South Carolina. And the next summer I worked at the American Civil Liberties Union in New York. And then when I graduated, working at legal aid seemed like an attractive thing to do where I could do worthwhile work. And I worked there for several months. And then the explosion of activity in New Haven involving the Black Panther trials was happening, and I had the chance to work on the defense of Bobby Seale in murder trial where he was accused. And so I did that. And then after all that, I wasn't going to go do corporate law. So I looked around, and civil rights cases, as well as other cases, were what seemed to be the most interesting things to do.
And so when you didn't really have an idea of what you wanted to do coming into law school, and you kind of found civil rights, but what was your impetus of like applying to law school? Like what was your thought process to that?
Well, I figured you could go to law school, you could do anything. You could study, you could be a researcher, you could be an advocate for people. Seemed like a way to open a door or open multiple doors. And it turned out to be that for me. My classmates went on to do all kind of different things. And what I found was something that worked for me then and works for me now.
Mm. What would you say, you've had a plethora of important cases, but what would you say was the most impactful to you? What was the case that really, changed your perspective on things?
Well, it's obvious now that I'm near the end of my career that um, if anybody ever writes my obituary, the first line is going to be about my first case, which was the Bobby Seale Black Panther cases in New Haven. My own feeling is that the cases that um, meant the most to me, where I feel as though I did the most good, was a series of employment discrimination cases involving police and fire departments in Connecticut,
Mm.
and in particular, um, playing, I would say, a significant part in racially integrating fire departments in various municipalities and the Department of Corrections. Uh, and in that, what was the case when I got involved was that these agencies were um, almost all almost all white. The numbers were, in retrospect, kind of amazing. In the Department of Corrections, because I'm doing something in that area now, the number of people above the entry level in the Department of Corrections, which is a very large institution, was half a dozen, uh, either of racial minorities, that is to say, black or Hispanic, and they were all at the lowest level, lieutenant. In Bridgeport, the fire department, city of Bridgeport, had, if I'm not mistaken, four black or Hispanic firefighters out of a force of 500. New Haven had, I think, eight. The numbers, in retrospect, are astonishing, and it was something that was needed to be done, was ready to be done, and I spent years of my career doing it.
Mm.
As you would notice, if you go out or you're visiting a prison or you're seeing a police department, um, racial segregation isn't a thing anymore.
Mm.
And so the part that I played in making that happen has to stand as a high point in my career.
Mm. I guess one of the things um, I think a lot of people are grappling with is like, what is the rule of law in this moment, in this time, right? Um, and whether it's policy making, whether it's litigating, like what is the law that we know? Is it important, right?
Yeah, well, I would say rather than what is the rule of law, I would say where is the rule of law at this point. And I'll tell you because it's happening this week, happened yesterday, it's happening tomorrow, is that Yale Law School, and I played some role in this, is has created a lectureship in constitutionalism and the rule of law, named in honor of Aharon Barak, former Chief Justice of Israel, who was a um, creator of a rule of law and its principles in the state of Israel, that's had an impact really around the world. And talking to people now, um, what can one say other than um, let us let us say a prayer for the rule of law. Hope that hope that it hasn't been um, broken beyond repair. It's certainly been bent by the administration, and it's tempting and probably accurate to say that the Supreme Court of the United States has not made its mark defending the rule of law. Lower court judges have done well, and one hopes will continue to do well. But there's only so much they can do uh, in in a regime where the final word is the Supreme Court of the United States, and in particular, 5 or more justices on the Supreme Court of the United States. So that's a big part of the reason that it's hard to be too optimistic looking forward.
If you were going into law school today, what would you say to yourself?
There's a lot of work to do. I was at a at a meeting at the law school actually yesterday, and then at a dinner last night with some law professors, and they were talking about law students drafting legal papers to try to stop the worst excesses of the administration, and that's what should be happening, and I would say is happening, and is a hope that things are going to stabilize and restabilize in a way that preserves or restores the regime of laws, not whims.
Mhm. For those of y'all who are just joining us, you're listening to Just in Time Conversations, WNHHFM 103.5. Here talking with David Rosen, civil rights attorney, and we were just talking about, what is the rule of law? Where is the rule of law? And what would be the advice for students coming into the field and profession? I'd love to get your perspective. How do we build out the bench to get more people in position? I think from the conversations that I have with friends who are now attorneys and who are in the profession, there's a lot of people who are doing a lot of good work, but there isn't a lot of people who are public interest lawyers, who are public defenders, who are getting into the pipeline to be judges, to be on these courts. And so what should be the prescription to make that happen? And that's a long-term project, right?
Yeah, how to get more better judges. The first thing is, let's look around and see there are a lot of good judges. And in federal court, it is, and I sure will remain, the practice that the president nominates and the Senate confirms federal judges, and the way to get good federal judges is to have a president who is going to appoint them. And if you're sort of in that world, you have to smile the fact that judges will hang on and stay on the bench and stay active until the president of their party is elected and comes into office, and they then resign or retire, rather. And the way things are now, the Supreme Court is not doing well. The lower courts are doing pretty well, but it's very different depending where you are. If you're in Texas, it's one thing. If you're in Massachusetts or Vermont, or rather Massachusetts or New Hampshire or Maine, it's another thing. So for people like me thinking of doing cases, one of the questions is, where do you bring the case?
Mm,
Uh, and that's a maybe more fruitful route than thinking that we're going to get a whole other cohort of judges anytime soon.
mm. And I guess with that, you have all these cases where either, the attorney general is looking to make cert, or people are looking to have certain legal questions remedied, right, by going to different circuit courts looking for issues. Do you think that is the best way to have some of these bigger issues, whether you're talking about climate change, immigration, um, uh, to be remedied, is to find those cases and bring them to the prospective places?
I don't think the question is what's the best way. I think
Mm,
the question is what are all the ways, and there's no reason not to pursue all the ways. I can't. There may be. I can't even think of um, a situation where doing choice A will mean you can't do choice B. You can't lobby if you sue, and you can't try to get action from a legislature if you are protesting. Just the opposite. So I think it's really important to look for any opportunities that there are, and to do it. Um, but to say with an open mind, as people come up with things, and the one that, as a lawyer, I gravitate toward is thinking up some kinds of lawsuits to bring. But other people think of other things, and everything all at once is, I think, a good prescription.
um, Yale has the um, rebellious lawyer conference every year, or almost every year, right? Since COVID, it's changed a little bit, right? But what do you think the relationship between lawyers and the community should be, and how, in your perspective, what is community lawyering, right? Like, what does that look like?
Community lawyering has, in the last months, I think, sort of receded in public eye, in sort of from my perspective, because um, there's so much that's going on this whatever macro level, uh, and community lawyering is most at home in the community. And for example, I live in New Haven, and community lawyering, in the sense of improving things one way or another in New Haven, is very worthwhile. Um, but it's a little bit as though, we're really fixing it up, we're really making things nice. Like, oh my goodness, what's that enormous thing coming up over the mountain? Um, so um, I wouldn't for a moment suggest backing away from community lawyering, but we are in a moment of large scale crisis.
Mm-hmm. As someone who's been an educator, right, teaching classes, right, um, what is there? Did you enjoy your time more teaching, or did you enjoy your time more practicing, or?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I'm more comfortable, more at home, I enjoy more practicing rather than teaching, which I don't feel as though that's a virtue. I wouldn't. I think it would be great if I found teaching the most deeply satisfying thing, but I like being more active. I think
Mhm.
is what it is. Now, teachers might say, "Well, we're really active. We've got all these students to whom, in front of whom we're, or with whom we're being active." Um, but to me, sort of doing a case and in the world and accomplishing something out there feels like what's most natural to me.
Mhm. Before we got on, I was bragging about you, talking about different people who've come into contact with you and gone out into the world, and practice law. And so I guess to that, you know, how do you view mentorship, and like what do you, who were your mentors, right? And how do you view mentorship?
Who were my mentors is a good question to which I don't have a very good answer. Um, so while I'm processing that one, I'm going to skip over to being a mentor. And all I can say about that is I've been in a very good place to be a mentor because I've had people to say one after the other who they sure don't need a whole lot of coaching from me. What they need is, pat on the back and go get 'em type of cheer. Um, I like to think about and sometimes say that the people who've worked in our office have gone on to high courts. We had two MacArthur Fellows. That's cool. Um, Public defenders, civil rights lawyers, law professors. Um, a wonderful array of really remarkable people. And I mean, all I can say about my role is I apparently, I tried to be helpful. And I think I could be say is, well, I didn't hurt because they really did great. But, doing that, you kind of come to realize um, that your, in this case, my impact it's all to the good, but it's fairly modest. I mean, these are people who have their own drive, their own energy, their own resources, their own ambitions, and I don't want to derail any of them, and I want to try to be helpful, but mostly, it's being appreciative and not getting in their way.
Mhm. I No, I think that's a good philosophy. To not get in people's way. I Yesterday was the primaries elections, and so I got to watch people that I, right, they'll say I am their mentor in one way or another, and it was amazing to see how many people have come through, and I'm just like, huh, like, yeah, maybe I think I did something, but I
Hmm.
think to your point, it's learning and knowing how to get out of the way.
Right.
Um,
I got my mentor.
hey,
Took a minute. Um, the person I think was my mentor was not a lawyer, a child psychiatrist named Donald Cohen, who was the head of the Yale Child Study Center,
Mm,
and someone whom I admired so much and looked up to so much and was so available as a friend and a mentor that he left really an indelible impression on me. He passed away in 2001,
mm.
but I think of him and benefit from him every day.
What? I did some sleuthing and reading about former cases and stuff, and I saw something about the Yale Child Study Center. What's your relationship to the Child Study Center?
I happened to meet um, this young doctor who is the person I mentioned. And I remember we took a walk and we talked and we made friends with each other. And then he became the director of the Yale Child Study Center.
Mm-hmm.
And I had, um, I don't know, maybe I had some appointment there or not, but it wasn't, that wasn't about work I did in the Child Study Center. It was having a close friend with whom I could share my ideas and my thoughts, and who would do the same uh, in my direction, and um, that meant the world to me.
Mm-hmm. The No, it's a great resource to the community, and tons of amazing people have come through uh, the uh, the the Child Study Center.
Yeah,
New Haven. Being a New Havener, right? I have tons of opinions about pizza, and I get offended when people say that New Haven's not a big city, but I feel like New Haven's the epicenter of so much. Um, what has that experience been like for you to be in this place that I feel connects to everything?
yeah. I grew up in New York City, in Manhattan, on the Upper West Side, and I came here to go to law school, and I felt and have felt for all these years that I was about the right distance from New York. I wanted to set up a life that was and lead a life that was independent, um, and yet not out. What will I say? In the middle of nowhere. And New Haven has been uh, very much for me the place that fit the bill. What I the reality is that I live sort of in the wider Yale community. I occasionally teach. I live in the neighborhood where there are all kinds of Yale, not all kinds of many Yale faculty. So the Yale presence to me has been a positive one that infuses this community with people who are interesting and thoughtful. And at the same time, it's not a little college town. It's a city, and that feels much more appropriate than a college town to have a place where there are real issues about what's going on in the world, and they're going on around the corner. So it's worked well for me.
One question that there's a couple of questions I always ask people, but I think especially in this time, what gives you hope, right? Um,
What gives me hope? Um, well, uh, it is an expression. I think of it as a Jewish expression, but it's a universal expression that I've heard so often. Um, this too shall pass. And what I hope is that our species and our planet can avoid catastrophe and come out the other side. Um, my wife and I have been um, looking at, reading about, watching films, TV about World War II,
mm,
and uh, the rise of Nazism. And I feel about that at the same time, things can be really, really bad, worse than here. And at the same time, and yet, that time we came out the other side. Is it going to get anything like that bad? I don't think it's anything like that bad. I don't think, you know, I don't want to say how much less bad it is, but it's less bad. But um, one can only hope that um, things will get better and we will do better. And I very much hope that and am cheered by the presence of my children and grandchildren. Uh, their role in the world is a positive one, and I hope the world does okay by them.
Yeah, God willing.
May it be so.
um, as we, come towards the tail end of our time, um, you know, what, what interesting work are you doing as you sunset your uh, long historic career?
Yeah, well, see, I've been a lawyer for how long? 69, 25. Okay, it's a very long time. 26 years, 56 years rather. Um, and what I'm interested in doing now is um, if there are some cases where I can be helpful in sort of pushing back against what's going on with this administration of the world, I would value that. I'm working on a case or two where I've been court appointed to represent prisoners, advocating for their rights, and that's important as well. I'm working on a case for the family of a man who was shot dead by police in a way that I think was unjustified, and pushing back against that kind of official misconduct is very worthwhile. So those are things. That's a short list.
The no that's important work. The one thing that I always like to ask folks is, uh, what's a song to remember them by? What's something that um, can connect us to you and connect us to the stories?
Uh, I was, as I'm sure everyone is, amused and surprised and a little taken aback. But I thought about it, and what I've come up with is a song, "Do You Want to Dance?"
Mm.
Which I think talks to me and expresses feelings I have about my relationship um, with others, um, my wife,
Okay.
and also my family, my community, and the world. Um, Sort of an invitation to a kind of, one hopes, joyful mutual interaction.
And that's by,
Who's it by? I
yeah.
don't know. I'm a few bars. Do you want to dance? I don't know if anybody else knows it. Done by several groups. Your listeners, if any, are going to have to look it up for themselves.
Look it up, yeah.
I think a lot of people did it, and I'm looking up who did the original version. Bobby Freeman.
Bobby Freeman.
In, I don't know, like 1700. Still a good song.
Do you want to dance? Okay. Well, thank you, David Rosen, for being in community to talk. As I always say, let us continue to plant the seeds of change so that we can grow together.
Thank you so much. And you keep up the good work, too.